Hi, welcome to This Week in Our Collective Heads. I'm Kevin, and that's it, because it's just me this week. We had some scheduling issues, primarily due to the fact that we had a 2-hour podcast that has to do with the intricacies of Bloodborne, and we expected it to be a lot less than that. So, apologies for everyone who isn't interested in Bloodborne, but for those who are, we have a lot of content for you this week. So we'll go ahead and dive deep into the news. And again, sorry that Patrick's not here. So if you're here to watch us or to listen mostly to Patrick, this might not be your episode. If, however, you just want to sit and listen to me, this is your chance. This is the episode you've been waiting for. So, starting with the news, Activision bought Candy Crush developer King for $5.9 billion with a B. So they could have bought the purchases of Star Wars by Disney and Mojang by Microsoft, the Minecraft developers. Both are about the same as Candy Crush, which is really, really bizarre to me. I don't know if they're going to take the make 3 or match 3 type things and just see what they can do with them, but I don't know what they have to offer. But the people who make these decisions get paid way more than I do, and they know way more about this company than I do, so we'll see what happens there. One theory that I've heard tossed around is that they're going to have King do kind of like match 3 type stuff or themed games for them. So like I don't know, maybe match 3 Ingrams and you can work on your Destiny character while you're away from home. I don't know. We'll see what they do with it. It'll take a while for all that to get running, but yeah, it was just a really bizarre story. In happy news, SNK Playmore said that they were going to drop pachinko games and double down on video games. For those of you who don't know, SNK Playmore are the ones who do the Samurai Showdown and King of Fighters games. They also have the Metal Slug series. And I think it's really interesting, particularly the fact that they are doing essentially the inverse of what Konami did maybe 6 months ago, where they say, okay, look, pachinko is a thing, but video games is something that we can rely on, which is essentially what their press release said. I applaud them for it, and I'm happy. I actually bought the Metal Slug collection for my Vita, so I'm going to be playing those a little bit. Yeah, so support your devs, the people that are out there making the games for us. Give them money so that they don't just go make pachinko, if they're giving you something you want. We have a new... This was actually some of the Bloodborne news that didn't make it into the episode. Bloodborne releases a patch with a co-op alliance called the League, and it's going to be an alliance that's essentially about co-op, as far as we can tell. It's going to be where you go in and you get points and you can rank up by helping other people in the game, which I think is a tremendous thing. And I've actually started updating my build to be more helpful in co-op. So we'll see what that looks like whenever it comes out. But that's going to be free and completely separate from the Old Hunters DLC that's coming at the end of this month. So that's exciting. And I know that there's also going to be some more NPC hunters. Alfred was available for one of the fights versus Bloodstarved Beast. And it was interesting. Like he's not going to win the battle for you, but he is useful, and you don't have to wait for somebody to pop into your game. So that was fun. Halo 5 launched, and we had the reviews last time. We hadn't actually gotten any of the figures or the numbers, but Microsoft has released figures saying that they have the, quote, biggest launch in series history. The only thing about that is that when they say the biggest launch in series history, they say that Halo software and hardware sold more than any other Halo in the first day. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But they're massaging the numbers clearly, because this was only on next-gen consoles. And so the market itself is actually smaller, but they're including the numbers from the bundles that included Halo 5. And so that means that anybody who went to Sam's and picked up where you can get the console and get a free game, any of those that included Halo 5, they're going to go ahead and throw in the full price, the $350 or the $400 if they got the terabyte version. And so it's I don't know. Their press releases are always kind of a look how good we're doing, but I feel like lately developers have been less and less forthcoming with the actual numbers. They just want something, sound bites essentially. We have the biggest launch in series history, and it was the fastest 24-hour campaign. Okay, whatever. How many did you sell? And that's just the information they're not willing to give us. And so it's really hard to even put this in historical context, because that kind of thing is interesting. But if we're only getting one side of it, the company spin, that's far less interesting to me. They also removed the Orion multiplayer map. They said that people were glitching it, committing suicide to get an advantage, and which I'm really curious about how you start a match with a suicide to get an advantage. Maybe it gets you closer to a gun or something, but I don't know. It's just one of those things that we'll not get to play again. But I'm sure there's footage up on YouTube of people doing weird things, and I love. Actually, read a quote earlier this week that was a guy talking about playtesting. And it was really insightful, because it talks a little bit about how, we like to complain when games came out, and Fallout is another one that'll be live when you get to hear this. But here's the quote from Mike Gabori, who's a game dev. He says, quote, "Giant games with insanely large amounts of content will ultimately have bugs and issues. Keep in mind a test team can only do so much. Even if you had 100 testers working 40-hour weeks, in 1 year you'd have roughly 8,000 days of test time. A popular title will have 10 to hundreds of thousands of people playing it. In one day, this army of people will already have surpassed the testing team's hours exponentially, finding infinitely more scenarios and ways to break something. Once you understand the sheer scope and impossibility of testing everything, you can begin to empathize, offer actionable feedback, and be a part of the game's growth instead of a customer support nightmare. If we can learn from this and move away from this self-entitled gamer movement, the industry as a whole can benefit from consumer to producer." And that's interesting because, they were talking about how Fallout 4 was going to be like a 200-hour game. Or maybe, no, that was Witcher. Oh, well. But, the game is huge. And to just go through on a single playthrough and, beat all the levels, do whatever. Like you said, if you have, even with an army of testers, you're still only going to experience so much of the game. And, at launch, there's going to be literally tens of thousands of people playing this game in the first 24 hours. And it's really, I don't know. We are testing it to them to some extent, and they will jump on this and they will do everything they can to patch it. But a game that is particularly the giant open world type of things, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, how quickly they're able to patch it, and just kind of see what happens. So anyway, speaking of Fallout, the Fallout Chat and Pip-Boy apps are released. The chat one allows you to send Fallout GIFs and Fallout little pictures and images and stuff. And I'm sure that'll be, fodder for all of us who are playing with it, because I cannot wait. I didn't think I was going to get to play at launch, but I'm going to get to play a couple of hours before I leave for the week. And then, once the weekend comes, I'll get a little bit more time. But I'm really excited about that. Next up, there's a study put out recently that says that more women than men own consoles. And this is according to Pew Research Group, so it's pretty legitimate research and everything. But I think that's interesting because a lot of the times what we see online is a bunch of mostly guys. And I wonder how long it's going to be before we can actually have, accurate representation of the ladies who are out there playing. I know a lot of women who play games, and they are no less hardcore than us. I I met a lady at GameStop the other day, has a Bloodborne Hunter tattoo, which is awesome. And she was as versed or more into the lore of that than I was. And she had the platinum, and there's absolutely no reason for any of us to look down on them or to talk shit about them just because they're female. And sorry for the swear. Maybe that'll be edited out. I don't know. But we need to maintain an open dialogue, and by creating an atmosphere of acceptance, we'll be much better off. All of us will be. Yeah. Squeenix asked if they should include Moogles via Twitter. They put out an account or a tweet that said, "Hey, so do you guys like Moogles? Do you think we should include them in the game?" Okay, they've already been making this game for how long, and they're just now figuring out if they're going to have Moogles in it? Yeah, I don't... This game is never coming out. It's definitely... I'll bet money that it's not coming out in 2016. If they're still figuring out some of the features that they're going to put in, that's an issue. So on their official poll, it was like 78% of people said, yes, we want Moogles. It's a Final Fantasy game. We didn't get to make comments, but we just said, yes, we want Moogles. And so they said, okay, well, we'll figure out how to squeeze them in. And Squeenix is such a weird company, and their entire process confuses me, and I don't understand it. So, yeah. So then we have a little bit of backwards compatibility here. I'll go ahead and squish these two stories together. The Xbox One first 100 backwards compatible titles were revealed. Those are up on Microsoft's website, the Xbox website. There's some interesting stuff in there. The entire run of the Gears of War stuff is in there, and like the first Fable. There's some really quality titles in there. Fallout 3. But the interesting thing about it is I was looking at the list, and it's 105 games. It only goes up to L, and I wonder about the prioritization of alphabetical order. It's just kind of weird to me. And then on the PlayStation side of backwards compatibility, PlayStation now has added 105 more games. It's a lot of Capcom stuff, Mega Man 9 and 10, some of the fighting games, a bunch of the Resident Evils, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, just they added 105 more games. They have a free trial. Honestly, if they added the entirety of the PlayStation 3 library, I would still not be interested. I want to see PS2, PS1 titles. I feel like the PS3 stuff I played. That's fine. But like I've bought Final Fantasy VI, I've bought Chrono Trigger, Symphony of the Night, those kind of titles. Give me those ones. Let me play that at home. And it's already been emulated for the PS3. It's already been emulated for the Vita. This to me seems like money that they're just leaving on the table. It can't be that difficult if you can toggle it over to a cell processor. How difficult is it to pull it over to x86 architecture? I do not understand that, and I would really like them to see just basic PlayStation emulator. Hell, there's one available online. Go torrent it, Sony. Yeah. Sorry. When I don't have somebody to bounce this off of, I just end up looking at the microphone, being like, you understand, and it doesn't. Microphone doesn't understand me at all. Game launches. Black Ops 3. It's another Arkham Knight situation. It works fine on consoles. The PC launch is broken. There are people who were reporting on Steam that they would turn the game on and wouldn't be able to get past the opening load screen. And I, just 10 minutes ago, I said that, hey, we should give them a little bit more slack, and there's things that we're going to run into that they're not. Turning the game on is not one of those things. Turning the game on should be something that everybody should be able to do with a fair amount of reliability. I do not understand that, and I don't understand how a company as big as them thinks that that's going to be forgotten. I mean, I don't feel that we're that much of a pushover community. Maybe we are. I mean, people are grabbing Fallout 4, before the reviews come out. I waited. I read the reviews, and they've said yes, it's buggy, it's got some severe issues. Honestly, after looking at all these things and the likelihood of these coming up, the ability to save anywhere, backup saves, most of the time on console you've got your auto save and maybe one more. But the way that Fallout has created their save system, even if it is as buggy as is claimed, I feel like it's something that I'm going to be able to kind of sit down, look at, and keep a consistent save file running. I shouldn't have to do that, and I know I'm making excuses for them, but I'm sure they have already started working on stuff, and they're going to work on it. I'm going to play the game, and we'll see what happens. We'll have fun with it. Like I said, I'm probably going to get the first hour in tonight, and then we'll talk about it more next week on the program when I actually have somebody to talk to, because right now I don't. There was another weird story. Syndicate, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. They have costumes. Most games have costumes now. The weird thing is that the Syndicate costumes are between 700 meg and 1.2 gig a piece. Like the steampunk outfit is 1.2 gigabytes. I have no idea how that's even possible. I looked up the stats for the Arkham Knight various costumes, and those are approximately 13 meg a piece. So how do you get to a gig for a costume? That I would just love to know what's in there, how it got to that. I mean, it just kind of blows my mind. If they're doing full motion video capture, and then they're putting the video into the game, I don't know. It's weird, it's strange, and it's confusing, but it's interesting. And that's the kind of stories I like best. The ones that are weird, confusing, and interesting. Confusing stories, yeah. Which, obviously, that's why we have the whole big thing on Bloodborne. GameFAQs also turned 20 this week, which, back in the earlier days of the internet, and yeah, that makes me sound old. But in the earlier days of the internet, when we were dealing with, dial-up modems, there wasn't the whole video walkthroughs, all those kind of things. There was a lot of Axie art and all that kind of stuff. And it was interesting to think back to the days when you would go on there and you'd be like, okay, I need a guide for the weapons and the usefulness of those weapons and the stats on them for Final Fantasy VI. I want to see what the best ones are. And you would go through, and somebody had taken the time to manually, because this isn't done via spreadsheet. These are like plain text guides. It's absolutely amazing. If you want to go back, if you did not spend time with GameFAQs, go back and look at that and see the care and love and time that people were willing to put into the guides. I'm not trying to belittle anyone who's doing that kind of thing now, but it's it really is, and it reminds me of the kind of the basis of the love of video games, the community that we create, and the affection that we have for our hobby. It's really fun to go over there and look. They're also running a thing right now where they're having like the best video games of all time and all that kind of stuff, and so it's really fun to look at that and just kind of see what's going on there. And yeah, it's a pretty neat thing. Then we have another listener letter, and this is from Jeremy. Now I won't out you, but Jeremy, you know who you are. He said, interesting thought. I'd like everyone to find their favorite game ever. I currently don't even have an answer. I'm just kind of excited thinking it through. So thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for sending that in. My answer has been Final Fantasy VI for a very, very long time, and it's we had an entire podcast on that. I won't bore you with running through that again. But I was thinking, what's my more recent favorite game? What game is it that I've played in the last 10 years or whatever that has just really sucked me in? And I had some really good candidates. Far Cry 3 is really an astounding title. There are very few first person shooters that I can go through and even play. You know, I need a good system like VATS or like stealth. I need something else that I can do in a first person shooter, because just shooting guys, I'm not going to be that good and I'm going to die a bunch. And that's not as much fun for me. So for me, Far Cry 3 is an excellent example of first person stealth done well. And I really appreciated that. And then the other one that I came up with that's my final answer is going to be Binding of Isaac. I've been playing that on my Vita since December of last year, and so yeah, coming up on 10 months, and it's different every time. There's so much replayability. I can honestly say that over the 150, 170, 200, I don't know. I know it's well over 150. That's about all the stats I have on how many times I've played it. But every game has been different. And okay, here's a quick story for those of you who are into Binding of Isaac. So I had a run. I was working on the what's it called? The Beans Challenge. And your main weapon in Binding of Isaac is tears. And in this particular challenge, you have no tears. You have a bean which poisons enemies, and you can activate that every room, and then it slowly charges automatically. So you can use it, then you dodge around enemies and whatever. And then they give you 99 bombs at the start, so that you have kind of a backup weapon. So I'm playing through, and I pick up a pill. You don't know what pills are till you use them, and I picked it. And it said, and it's the special effect, bombs are key. Those of you who have played Binding of Isaac know what that means. That means that my 60-something bombs, however many I had, was now switched. And now that was how many keys I had. And yeah, that's going to be problematic, because I have to wait about 30 seconds for the bean power up to charge. And so I was very nearly convinced that my run was done. Like I was finished. I couldn't win. And but I decided to keep on going, not worry about restarting, just see what happened. And on that same floor, about 3 rooms later, I came upon 2 items. I came upon Guppy's head, which enables me to summon flies, which go out automatically and attack for me. And then I got Revenge Fly, which once I've been hit in a room, then it kind of activates it, and it will go out and try to find enemies and attack them relentlessly until the entire room is cleared. So I went from having a pretty good run to a situation where I didn't think I could even possibly win, to a fair amount of confidence that I would be able to win. And all of that turnaround is just chance. And it makes for a wonderful story. I don't know how good of a story that is for those of you who don't know this game. But like it's just a really fun story, and it gets me thinking about, I really enjoy a story well told. The Last of Us. Actually, that's another candidate for top games, because that was one of the most emotional games I've ever played through. That's another fantastic title. But I really enjoyed the story. They told me a story, and I absorbed it. I went through it, and I went through it with the characters, and I connected to them in a way. But then Binding of Isaac is a game that has a weird story. I'm not sure what the hell's going on there. But the better story that comes through in that game is the story that I make, the story that my characters made. Just by chance. These are not things that, Macmillan and the designers, they didn't foresee a situation where this happened. They just set up a game where it could happen. And that's the beauty of it. And that's kind of one of the things, in a way, that I anticipate from Fallout. They have created a world where things can happen. There's going to be a story. There's going to be scenarios and quests and things that they have carefully designed and figured out how they're going to work. But they have created a world where things can happen. And I really appreciate games that are willing to go out and do that. That they put out a game, they put out a world where I get to explore, I get to run around and find, discover, explore the world that they've made and see what my story is. And Binding of Isaac is, for me, the kind of the epitome of that, because there's so many items, so many different things can happen. It's just a remarkable thing. And it's a really fantastic game. It's available pretty much everywhere, from the Wii U to the Xbox One, possibly 360, and highly recommend it. Well, that's our show for today. I apologize that it's so short, but apparently me monologuing is not as engaging. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and next week we'll be back to your regularly scheduled program with Patrick and I, and video, where you get to see our beautiful faces. And I don't know about beautiful. Anyway, so that's what we got. Thanks, and have a good one.